Actually, I wanted to talk. I wanted to talk at 5 o'clock in the morning, but you didn't answer.
Yeah.
I don't blame you, Mark.
Huh?
I don't blame you, buddy. I wouldn't answer either.
Actually, you know what, Mark? What I wanted to talk about is because I enjoy being around you because you're a man of immense knowledge, and I just love to hear you talk. Okay, so I mean, okay, so I buttered you up. But what I wanted to know is that on Facebook, and this is your opinion. You know what, Jason? Chime in if you want to. Don't you have a master's in theology?
I have a bachelor's degree in comparative religion, so yes and no.
Okay, so actually, this falls in real well. There was a post on Facebook. There was a new game that was out. I forget the name of the company, but the game is called Barbarossa, and there's a big swastika.
Ooh.
Okay, well, I'm glad you did that. There's a big swastika on the game, and somebody says you should remove the swastika. Now, I was like, I want to know why. And I'm not asking in a very ignorant, stupid way why he wants to remove the swastika. I want to know, why do you want to erase that? Meaning, to me, why would you want to erase that for it to repeat again in 100 or 150 years? Why would you want to remove that? And the same question is, you guys being Americans, why would you want to remove, and again, I'm asking this in a very innocent way, why would you want to remove the Confederate flag? Don't you want to learn from this? Don't you want to see it? Don't you want your child to come up and see William Shire's book and say, hey, Dad, what's that funny symbol there? Don't you want to explain that to him?
Mark, you want to go first?
Well, so here's the thing. And clearly, I wouldn't accuse anybody of being in favor of the Nazis, but the war game hobby has always had a thread of, what's the right word? I think it's a little bit been too supportive. Everybody likes to, wanting to play the German. When I play games, by the way, just so you know, I only play the Germans if I actually have to. Now, I don't dislike Germans. I hate, the Nazis. I
understand.
Uli Blennemann's one of my closest friends. Germans, no problem. In fact, I'm German. Let's just start with Herman, right? So I'm of German descent. So it's not a German thing; it's a Nazi thing. So when I play a World War II game, I would prefer to be the Western Allies. I don't even like being the Soviets, actually, because remember I play games for the narrative. So do I want to live the narrative of being a Nazi conqueror? It's not necessarily where I want to be. Now, if most games, when I do play the Germans, is because if the other person's not experienced and you don't know how to play the Germans, the game doesn't go anywhere. In other words, if you don't know how to, they're the attacker. So, if you don't know how to do the attack, the game doesn't get off the ground. So that's the one time I make the exception. But that's just my own personal view. Now, covers are meant to be, but where I object to so I don't mind World War II games. Let me be clear. I played them. I designed them. I've done all the above. But when you put a cover on a game, technically that's the marketing. That's your brand.
Right.
And so why do you want to put the SWAT, the Third Reich's, symbol of hate on the cover of your game? Now just to give you an example, in Churchill, my original playtest map, I wanted the swastika on the German space. There was a very clear reason, part of the narrative. I wanted you to drive your tank onto the Nazi swastika. That was the image I wanted to actually see in the game.
Okay.
When I was in Moscow once, I went to their war museum, and you've seen pictures of the Reichstag where they blow the Nazi eagle off the top of the Reichstag. You've seen that picture 100 times.
Yeah.
That eagle, I saw that eagle. And you know the way they display it? They have it on its side with rubble around it. So and I said, that's the way to show.
That's right.
That's the way to show it. So I wanted to drive my tank onto that swastika. Now, it got everybody all up in arms. I said, don't need it. We'll just put a picture of the Reichstag, which is what we did in the game. But the image I wanted was to drive a tank onto the swastika. So, that was the narrative I wanted to tell. I wanted you to do that. But again, putting on a cover, there are just a bunch of games where, like, I don't want to do that. But just as they say is that I just think there's just been a little bit too much of Third Reich imagery on the cover. Why when we did France 1944 with Compass, right? There was I don't remember what the first cover was. I said, I want American infantrymen on the cover. I don't want to see any Germans. And so the cover is a U.S. Sherman tank dancing with American soldiers in front of it. That's a good image for me. That's the brand I wanted. We're winning. We invaded. We're going to knock you out. I mean, that's what I wanted. So that's my feeling on the swastika. Jason, you might have a view here.
If you look back on some of the covers of games, late 70s, early 80s, it seems like that symbology was a little more prominent. I don't know if people were a little more loose about how they felt about it. But as time has gone on, things have definitely tightened up, such that the tolerance level for that, they'll speak up. And why is this like this? And why would you put this on there? I think maybe it's a quick, cheap way to get attention. It works both ways. As much as we profess not to like this stuff and are against it, there's that contingent of folk that they'll buy the game because it looks a certain way, and that imagery, for whatever reason, still to this day just cheaply grabs your attention, and there's that.
I tend to not want to believe that people are that stupid, but you know what? That's my naive. I'm naive like that.
No, I gotta be honest with you. I've been around gamers. I've never seen. I mean, long ago there was a couple of guys used to show up at some of the Origins that were like into the whole SS trooper uniform thing, and they got thrown out. They just got thrown out, and it hasn't been around. That goes back into the 70s. They just got thrown out.
No, but now, I agree with that guy.
Well, let me flip it around. You said something about the Confederate battle flag,
right?
So I'll tell you a quick. I always tell stories,
Yeah,
So
go ahead, man.
So my wife wanted to buy me a anniversary present years ago. Civil War. That guy, Morton Kunstler. Whatever his name is, he does these like I could well, it's over there, but in fact, wait, do you see in the picture that picture over there?
Vaguely.
Over the fireplace?
Vaguely, yeah.
So that's a drawing painting of Union soldiers charging Mayor's Heights at Fredericksburg. It's part of Mort Kunstler is one of these guys who does these kind of historical prints. And very historically accurate. They look cool. So my wife wanted to go buy me a print like that for my anniversary. I didn't know at the time, obviously. She takes my son and they go off to Leesburg, Virginia. There was a gallery that sold Mort Kunstler. Like I said, you look him up on the internet. He's very famous. So they go there, and my wife goes around, and every single picture. Remember, this is Leesburg, Virginia, which is like Mosby's Confederacy area. Everything had a Confederate flag. There was no Union flag. So my wife goes, "Do you have any with it, like the winning sides flags on them?" And the lady goes, "Well, they're not very popular here, but I have a catalog." So the woman pulls out a catalog. Carol picks the picture out of the catalog, and they order it for her. And it shows up, and they frame it and all that. And I get it, and it's sitting right. My finger is on it now. There it is, right there. You see my finger, end of my finger, and you can sort of see the American flag. My finger's like on that's an American flag. You can kind of see there's a flag there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's cool, and so now the question is, I've had For the People has a Confederate flag. It has a Union flag, Confederate flag. It's got Lee, and it's got Grant, and it's got that whole tableau thing going. I think the issue ultimately is not the Confederate. Well, using the Confederate flag as a symbol of racism and of intimidation is uncool. Totally.
That's right.
I go to context. A lot of the monuments they've taken down in the South were not put up during the Civil War. They weren't even put up to honor the day. They were put up to intimidate a black church. They put those things up, directly opposite a black, like the one in Charlotte. That was put up like in, somewhere in the 20th century. I don't know the exact dates of each of these things, but they put them up there, and they put it directly opposite a African-American church, and it was there to intimidate them. So that's a different, that's a whole different thing, Now, you'll hear people say, well, Robert E. Lee was a traitor. Again, context matters, right?
Yes.
Washington, one of our greatest presidents, was a slave owner, because in the context of his, as a historian, nuance and time, and you gotta look at things within the context. Now, in Washington's defense, when he died, he manumitted all his slaves. He freed them all. So even he knew it was wrong, but I guess he couldn't. Whatever. I never spoke to Washington, so I don't know. But the point is of all the great things he did, he was a slave owner. he kind of at the very end of his life did good by it, fixed it in his mind. But realistically, that whole slavery period of our history is just a abysmal period of our history. A lot of people were and then by the way, most people don't even recognize Reconstruction was worse than the Civil War and the pre-Civil War period was on African Americans. They were, this is the Ku Klux Klan. They were killing 1 or 2 African Americans per day after the Civil War to try to intimidate them. So this thing goes a lot longer than just the Civil War. So again, I understand the imagery, but the imagery of the battle flag is in the context of a historical simulation. It's not, but you could argue just the same thing. Is it as bad as a Nazi flag? If I was African American, I might think so.
That's two evils. It's still evil.
Well,
they were on the wrong side of history for certain.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I just learned something today. I didn't know that they would build a monument right next to an African American church. I mean, obviously that's for intimidation. I want it down too. You see, that's why I'm asking these questions, man.
Yeah, questions. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
Living in New Orleans, and we've dealt with a lot of monuments being taken down, and I'm not saying I disagree with that at all. But I thought maybe a better idea and a cheaper solution would be to leave the monument, but add a new plaque that states all these horrible things that this person did, so that we can still learn from the history. So this is so-and-so, he owned slaves, he did this, he did that. Don't just put the good stuff, put the bad stuff too. So that,
Again,
but anyway, to go back to the game thing.
And let's face it, like for instance, you can't see it on that wall. There's a picture of the Hunley, which is the first American submarine. I don't know how it's a submarine. Submersible is not really a submarine. And they finally found it not too long ago, like in the 80s, I think they found it, brought it up, and of course the whole crew was still there. They went down with the ship. Yeah. And but they were exhumed. They died a long time ago. They were exhumed and they were buried in a Confederate cemetery with honors. They fought in their for their cause, but they were fighting for the wrong side. But they're dead. We buried them. Okay, done. Move on. It's history. So I guess but I think it comes down to the Nazis, and even by the way the Soviets, the level of malevolence was exceptional. I mean, I'm not saying that the Southern slavery was as malevolent as what happened later, but we supersized it for the 20th century. So really, it really even gets worse. So again, I totally take the point that the Confederate battle flag, the Nazi, even the hammer and sickle to me, these are not images of what I call loving government.
Yeah, no, I understand 100%. And go ahead, Jason.
Oh yeah, look at that SS thing. Yeah.
So this is an old game, TSR. Is that needed? Is that necessary? Why is it there?
Yeah, but
it's an example. I mean, it's to sell a game, and it's as awful as that sounds. That's the only reason they did it, because it grabs attention, and I don't know, because what's the point? And then up front, great game, but that's an SS symbol.
Yep.
I mean, squad leader, and this image we all know that's a totem cove symbol right there. So why is that stuff necessary? Why is that needed?
Well, and I go back to when the hobby started. There was always this. There's no question about it. There's always been this German army thread that ran through all of the covers.
Yeah,
going back a long way, and it was done purposefully to sell games. I mean, that is the truth of it.
There's a great article in Fire and Movement or something like that, one of those old magazines, and it's distinctly about the prevalence of pro-German imagery on game covers. And I wish I could dig it up, but it'd take me 3 months to find it.
But actually, believe it or not, you don't need to. I mean, I remember reading that article.
So you know what I'm talking about.
No, you gotta. I give you an example. So you may not. For many years, and he was a good guy, by the way. There was a guy named Fred Helfrich, and Fred Helfrich was the editor of Fire and Movement magazine. Now, I didn't know Fred that well, but one time he did a review of Pacific War, which was very, very, very fair. And I ran into him after that. I thanked him for the review, and we got, so he said, "I'll buy you a beer." So, I was old enough then, so I had a beer with Fred once, and I was asking him, and I realized his age. I said, were you in World War II? You know, I asked him the question. He goes, yeah, but he was in the Wehrmacht. You know, Fred was and he told me he was, again, I will take him at his word. He was a lieutenant in a signals company that worked in northern Italy. He used to be like a signals intercept guy, you know, like a code breaking kind of guy, but not the guy who broke the codes, the guys who collected all the data so they could break the codes or whatever they tried to do. And he was a signals guy, and they used to, you know, bug, you know, wires and things behind enemy lines to try to get U.S., you know, if you talk in the clear, they could, you know, understand it. And that's what he did in World War II. So he was in the Wehrmacht. So when I was growing up, there was a lot more people, you know, most of those people now are, you know, very old or have passed away, but there was a lot more World War II vets that I dealt with when I was a kid. So I have a lot of, you know, a lot of stories that, you know, that I've heard over the years from different veterans. My own uncle was at Guadalcanal, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, different world.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, okay, so I'm glad I asked the question, and I'm glad I'm getting an American point of view, because what the hell do we know about Confederate history? I mean, Civil War history here in Canada, right? We learned a little bit, but I mean, after a half an hour class, it's over. You know, you go on to how well we treated the Aboriginals here. You know what I'm saying?
You mean the First Nation, they call them there?
First Nation, yeah. How well we treated them here. You know what I'm saying?
Not so much.
No, I don't think so.
No.
And my other question, and my reason for saying, like, why would you want to remove the swastika? Why would you want to remove symbols of oppression? It made me think of when my kids were young in school, and that at some point we got a letter and said, we're going to pass everybody. And I thought, what? What do you mean you're going to pass everybody? But if my kid's an idiot, you're not going to make him pass. You're going to make him redo the bloody grade. He's got to learn something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's a very ignorant way of comparing stuff, but it made me think of that, and it's like, man, what's going on? What do we live in, an amby-pamby world where everything is?
The times are changing, man.
No. The times are changing. We have to remember what happened, man. Hey, my family, we came here in World War II. I could have been in Tuscany having some wine right now, but I'm here and I'm drinking bloody spring water in a soda machine, whatever.
So there's a fine line, obviously, with the PC culture, and it seems like oftentimes that is exceeded. People are so easily offended about everything, and it's just continually going that way, in my perspective. So, you know, what do you do about it? You know, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, Jason, you make an excellent point. I call it, what I've experienced over my life, I'm a little bit older than you guys, what I call the death of nuance. There's no more nuance. It's either yes or it's, even the way reporters ask their questions, it's yes or no. Now, I never forgot, I once got a traffic ticket. I went to traffic court, and the guy, the DA comes out before, there's about, 30, 40 people who are going to fight their tickets, right? And he comes out and goes, okay, look, here's how this is going to go. If you think that you are, been mistreated and you want to, then the judge's going to say, did you do it or not? Now, if you say yes with an explanation, save yourself the 2 hours, just pay the fine. See, yes with an explanation is guilty. That's what he said.
Right.
So unless the answer is no, I didn't do it, and then all of a sudden there was like, I left. so nobody stayed after this. So the world has gone to this. It's yes or it's no. So you want to say, yes, I'm guilty with an explanation, knock yourself out, but you're still guilty, right? So my point there is that nuance is gone. So you want to put a Confederate flag on the cover. If the vision of that Confederate flag is verboten under any, I use the German word, under all circumstances, then there's no conversation, right? I design history games. Quite frankly, the Empire of the Sun's got a, I don't think it actually, does it have a Japanese flag on it? One of them does. More importantly, I'm going to show you something real quick.
What, there's something wrong with the Japanese flag now or something?
Well, no, it goes back down to, they weren't on the winning side. So here is this cover. This is the first edition cover. You see that cover?
Yeah.
That's the edition I have. I prefer that.
I have.
Yeah. But so when this came out, the PC crowd went crazy. They said, you're mocking Japanese people. That's a cartoon like the West would do. And then Roger McGowan, who did the cover, published where the picture comes from, right? The picture was on the side of a building in Tokyo in World War II. It was like, 24 picture. I mean, it's a gigantic mural. This picture is a mural. Like, imagine a building with this picture is the whole building. That's how big it was. And it was a Japanese building.
Yeah.
And it said, I think the Japanese words were, "We will never surrender," or, "We will never lose," or something very propagandist. And everybody said, "You're mocking them." I said, "Wait a minute, this is a Japanese picture, dude. This is nothing, so this is how they looked at themselves, not how we're picturing them." That shut the whole crowd down. So everybody's sort of, spring loaded to immediately object without knowing the nuance or the facts. It's like, "Oh, you've done this." The answer, "Oh, why did you pick that color?" "Well, because you hate," So people are certainly so there's a crowd, if you go to the most common denominator, you can't get anywhere. So the PC culture certainly goes too far.
Yeah.
However, the other side, the insensitives, neither one is right. The totally insensitive, I'm going to walk around with a Confederate flag on my shirt or my tie or whatever.
No.
It's just as wrong as nothing can be done unless it's totally, innocuous. I mean, it's got to be gray. It can't be white or black. I don't know. Whatever.
Did you get any complaints from Japanese people about the cover, or was it just from Caucasian people speaking for Japanese people?
There's a crowd of guys I know. They were guys, by the way, weren't even women, and they're looking for something to yell about. And they jumped on this. Of course, they shut up after that because it was like, okay, I look stupid now. Maybe I should shut up. And so that was cool. But the first inclination is, you've insulted me. I'm insulted. Well, I don't know. Why are you insulted? Well, you spoke. All right. Well, that's okay.
Well, there's another argument also that is being made, and it goes along the lines of people, no offense, but Caucasian people like us, and tending to speak out so readily, willing to speak out for the marginalized people, such that marginalized cultures and people are kind of getting, I don't want to say getting sick of it, but they want to be able to speak for themselves. And it seems like we're always stepping up to the plate to make sure everything's okay. And it's slowly becoming irritating to these marginalized cultures and society. So
and am I wrong in wanting to teach my children, like sit them down and watch the Civil War by Kent Burns, or sit them down and watch a documentary on the Holocaust?
Yes, you're fascist if you do that.
Say
you're
what?
Fascist. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Why should there be anything wrong with it?
No, and I think that should be taught in schools. That should never be erased. Anyways, I don't know. I'm freaking out, man.
Yeah.
Well, there may come a time when that isn't taught anymore. You're right. I mean, it's not inconceivable that in the future certain things are no longer taught because it's not. We don't talk about that. It's not correct. It's glorifying it, or it's celebrating it, or we need to forget it.
Well, again, that goes back to the death of nuance. I just think that history is badly taught in my country. There has to be, a discussion if you want to learn anything. And if there's no discussion, but even, and I'll be honest with you, and I want to be clear, I'm a moderate in everything I do. I find the far left. I don't think everybody talks about a spectrum. There's the left, this is the right, right? They have this spectrum. I think it's a circle. I think that the people that are on the far left and the people on the far right meet each other, and they're pretty close. Now they have different issues, right, that they sit on, but they're extreme. In other words, everybody's wrong. Everybody deserves to be, and it doesn't matter which way. When you get to the far left, the far right, I can't see the difference to me. They just hate. They're just haters.
That's right.
And they just hate different things. They hate the other guy, and they hate anybody, but they still hate, and it's a hate thing. I'm sitting way up here. I'm going like, I'm moderate. I don't like either one of the politics at those ends. And again, it's not a spectrum to me. It's a circle.
Yeah.
This part of the circle, there's a thin line between those very extreme. I want to hurt people who I've been. My group has been hurt. I want to hurt back.
Yeah.
My group has been hurt. I want to hurt back. I'm not sure I can tell the difference. Different different things egging that on, different senses of outrage and whatever, but comes to the same place. I want to kill somebody, and I go, okay, I can't see much difference there.
I find that juvenile. It's an adolescent, man. They haven't grown up after high school,
Don't know. And again, I'm not saying that people don't have grievances. Grievances are real.
Yeah.
They're hate is a very powerful emotion, even in politics. But when those grievances get to the point where I get to do whatever I want in retaliation and revenge or whatever, now I'm not on your side. I don't care if you're left or right. You just want to hurt somebody.
Right.
You just want to hurt somebody, and that to me is already not helpful.
There was a situation here that I don't know, 20 years ago that happened where the First Nations people rose up because some private guy decided he wanted to build a golf course on First Nation cemetery. Now, that's wrong just to begin with.
Well,
there was another.
I guess the first question: How did that guy get control of that property? The same old way they just stole it? Is that what happened?
How did he get the land? Did he buy it?
I don't know. I have no idea. I was caught with this thing happening, and I think a cop died. A little kid died, and the people were hating the First Nations people, and the First Nations people were hating. But okay. And that incident is probably out of context because a lot of shit must have happened on either side for this to escalate to that level, man. But you know what I came away with was, why the hell would this idiot want to build a golf course on sacred land? It's a cemetery. Go build it on your mother's land.
So, I don't want to get into that. I'm sure there are particulars about the whole story.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Once it was all sorted out that it was sacred land, the government should have just said, okay, look, dude, you paid this money for the land. We're buying it away from you. You have to, it's an easement. We'll take it. We give it to the nations. That was the only solution at that
That's
point.
Right.
I don't know how it got there. Who knows how it got there? Maybe the guy didn't know some guy sold, hey, you could buy this land real cheap. I don't know. Maybe the guy didn't even own it. I have no idea.
Anyways. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Mark, at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I'm really glad you waited till now.
Those mushrooms actual size, Dan?
You know what? My girlfriend right now is a mycologist. Okay, she's licensed. She can take you guys out, and you can eat mushrooms wild. Okay, you can trust her. And these mushrooms here, they're magic mushrooms.
Uh-huh.
But you got to dose yourself properly.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you. Here's how I dose myself.
You sprinkle them on your salad?
How do you dose yourself, Mark?
I don't.
Okay, so I'm just talking medicinal purposes here.
I get my medicines from a doctor and a pharmacy. That's it.
Yeah, you know where they get their stuff?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I don't. My big thing in life is I don't judge. I don't tell other people how to live their lives. On the other hand, I don't like being told how I should live my life. So
I don't do mushrooms. I might look like I do mushrooms, but I don't do mushrooms. I'm just saying.
So are we going to talk about anything about games, or we're just going to get into this philosophy? So we got swastikas, we got Confederate flags, we got racism. This is a really uplifting conversation during a pandemic. I've got to tell you, I'm loving it.
It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep, Mark.
I'm sorry. I'd sleep at 4 o'clock in the morning. I've been sleeping very well. I'm sitting in a very safe place. We're going to go. We need to get out physically outside. I've been inside this. See this room?
Yeah.
And the room next to it. I've been basically here for 2 months. And I'm okay with that.
Or something?
Huh?
You have a chamber pot in there?
No, there's a bathroom. There's a bathroom.
You do go to the bathroom.
We're good. We got plenty. Just my wife and I. We're good. She's an amazing cook. We've got people deliver food. We eat food. I have a rowing machine. I row. I design games. I read. We watch Netflix like everybody else in the world. So I'm fine. And I could probably do this for another 2 years if I had to. But I would like to, be outside. So we got to have a family place we're going to go to. We're going to we may be there till October at this point. But I'm not moving around a lot. So we're we're literally packing up the house. So that's why I said I needed to talk to you today, Dan, because this video camera and this microphone are coming with me.
Right.
I'm going to be gone a long time, so I got to take all this down.
Now the mayor is allowing you guys to go to other counties or other.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm only going an hour north of here into Westchester, so I'm in New York the whole time. So yeah, I can go anywhere I want in New York, and technically I can go anywhere in the country. But when I see New York license plates these days, nobody's feeling like, oh wow, welcome.
I know, I understand. Okay.
Yeah. So no, I can go anywhere I want.
And I mean, what does New York City look like right now? Is it barren?
Well, there's still 8.8 million people sitting here, but the streets are busier than you would think, but it's pretty quiet. But and by the way, I had to do a medical thing on last Saturday, so I walked down Second Avenue going south. I walked about 2.5 miles. I wasn't going to take a subway. I wasn't going to get in a car. I walked the whole way and back, and all of the restaurants were open for pickup, and for delivery. And there were people in the street, and there were people in line outside one of those clinics, I guess, to get tested. And, there were people out, doing their thing. But, most people had a mask on. I had a mask on, but some people didn't. And, but I stayed away from them and everybody else, quite frankly, and, did my thing and walked home. But so, yeah, people are moving around.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fear has slowly subsided. And here in New Orleans, about 2 weeks ago, you ride your bike or go out, look like a ghost town.
I saw that video.
A couple days ago, I realized that there's traffic everywhere. It's like people just decided, done. I'm going out. I'm done with this.
Yeah, but I think it's too fast, too soon here, man.
Yeah, well,
something. Here's the thing: freedom. What was the freedom's just another word when you have nothing left to lose, right?
Yeah.
The old ballad.
Joplin, yeah.
When you go out now, I've been I'm a fanatic about. I've read science papers. I mean, I think I got a good handle on what's going on. And the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go into an interior space that's not your own, because they've already said in the paper I just read, the stuff hangs in the air for an hour.
So you're saying it's not good. So you're saying it's not a good time to go to Golden Corral and eat?
It's like if Golden Corral has outdoor seating, okay. Golden Corral indoor. By the way, I have friends in the restaurant business, and if I look at those rules, a restaurant usually needs. Every restaurant's different, but you got to be around 70-80% capacity for the month to make money.
Yeah.
So if you can only have 25% of your seating, do the math. That's just losing money.
Yeah, it costs more to stay open.
They don't even open. Why would you open?
Yeah,
makes no sense. And of course, people are, and the big companies, the big change. I saw the guy. I watch a lot of financial news. The guy from TGIF, their CEO, he's saying we're not opening right away. We're going to wait to see how this kind of plays out and how it goes. And also, he's looking at liability. Because if somebody comes to my restaurant, well, I got sick in your restaurant if you didn't do it right. Well, there's a lawsuit. So I don't think these guys feel like dealing with it. So my plan is I'm going to have. I'll have this kind of contact, and my granddaughter will be living with us when we go up. That's why we're going out of town. We're all going to go into the same house, and we'll take care of the baby while they work. They're teleworking. I'm teleworking. My wife can be grandma and the nanny, and she's so looking forward to that. I can't even tell you. If she has a baby to play with and take care of, she could do this for 4 years. It won't matter. Italian grandma, right? You had one of those, right?
I wish I still had one, man.
Well, this little girl has one, so she's going to get her Italian grandma.
She's very lucky. Very lucky. So, Mark, you know what?
What?
Your new game. We might as well talk about Mark Herman's new game.
Okay.
What
is the game we're talking about? Just to help me out here.
Yeah, which one?
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know I was a.
I'm fine. I'm good. I'm not leaving until tomorrow morning.
I know it's a depressive conversation, but I wanted to get this out of my head, man. I can't.
Well, what game are we talking about? Just
about your new game. I don't know the title of it right now.
Pacific War, the one in GMT just put on the P500.
That's right.
Okay. I did 70 games, so you got your game.
Your new game.
Well, so here's the problem with that. That's why I asked. I thought you were going to want to talk about Versailles. Pacific War is not a new game. I did it in 1985.
Right.
Not a new game that I'm aware of.
Right. And it's funny. I read I read your description of the game,
Yeah.
and you were very adamant in saying that if you're looking for a light war game,
Oh, I got to tell you, Jason, you and I got to have to play a game someday. You look like you got the right game collection. All right. Yeah. So hold that up just for a second. So thank you. So the most important thing is in the lower left-hand corner of that thing. I'll tell you a funny story about that cover in a second. In the lower left-hand corner, 1985. So that's when that game came out. So when you said your new game, I'm going,
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's about, there's the back. And yeah, it's beautiful. Ted Koehler. So you see that cover, that photograph of the plane taking off into the sunrise or sunset. I can't tell you which it is. So we found the picture. And as soon as I saw it,
I'm offended by this picture, by the way.
Okay, that's fine.
I
respect your, Jason, I respect your right to be offended by a plane taking off of a carrier. Totally respect your right to do that. I'm good. So we were going through these photos, on a catalog, and we all saw the picture, went, bingo. It was like 5 guys went, that's the cover, right? So then we start looking into the details of getting to publish it. And it turns out it's like in this Navy archive, and it's copyrighted by the U.S. Navy and all this stuff. So Jason, I'm sorry. If you look on the cover on the lower right, what does it say there? It says courtesy.
Oh, it does. Photo courtesy of U.S. Navy.
Correct.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah. So I used to work. I've worked for many years, 35 years of my life. I worked with the government, and I knew that we had like a very short, like we had to get this cover done like in the next 2 days. I said, we couldn't write the letter to the bureaucracy to get permission in 2 days. I said, but however, it's a bureaucracy. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to thank them for the use of the picture. And we never asked. And never heard from them because somebody goes, hey, did we get permission? I don't know. It says courtesy. Hey, that's very nice of them. So we just thanked them for the photo, and we never wrote a letter or anything. And we used it. It's been a very famous cover. But anyway, the game was done in 1985. And what happened was Jesus Christ, I think it was a while ago. MMP comes to me. I never thought that I was never going to republish it. And MMP came to me and they said, hey, we'd like to do Pacific War. Curt Schilling, I think, was a fan. So I said, I'll do the game, but only if Curt Schilling signs my contract, which I have a signed contract from Curt Schilling. He's a famous baseball player, by the way, for the Boston Red Sox.
ASL guy.
Yeah, he's the ASL guy, but he's also a gamer. I mean, he's a war gamer, long time. One of the greatest pitchers in baseball history. The bloody sock. I mean, even as a Yankee fan, I like Curt Schilling. So great respect for the man. So he signs my contract, and by the way, I won a $100 bet with that. By the way, so I'm getting ready to do the game. They start doing some art, and then whatever reason, MMP lost interest in doing. I think Curt at that point had left, and with the champion for the project gone, they didn't feel like doing it. So we parted nicely. No yelling and screaming. I said, fine. I wasn't that excited about doing it anyway. And Nuts Publishing comes to me and they say, hey, we'd like to do it. I said, well, all right, what the hell. So that goes on. So this is now 11 years later. I find out that Nuts is not going to do it. And they said to me, oh, we thought you would. We decided that 3 years ago. I said, well, why didn't you tell me? I said, we thought you knew. Okay. So at this point, I'm like, now I'm actually at the point of being pissed off. So it wasn't like I cared. It's just now I'm mad. So I had done some amount of work over these 2 projects. I finally said, I got to get this. So I called Gene up and I said, GMT is always the top of the drawer, top of the line, pro crowd. I said, Gene, do you want the game? If you don't want it, it's never getting. He goes, no, I want it. Okay. So I started working on it, and and we worked deals. And we had most of the art was done by the Nuts art was already done by Olivier Revenue. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Anyway, Olivier had already done all the counter art and the map. We had some corrections to make, but 92% done on the art side, on the counters and the. So they cooked the deal with Olivier for the counter art. So now we're like really advanced in this thing. And remember, the game came out in '85. So when you said a new game, it's not a new game.
Sorry.
And don't apologize. I'm just messing with you. And now we're this is what I'm gonna do to the end till I get a vaccine in my arm. This is what I'm working on. To the end of the year, this is what I'm gonna work on. And some guy and as you saw in my write-up, here's what I don't know if you saw it, Jason, but the basic write-up is, look, this is a hardcore simulation from the mid 80s. This is like the height of wargaming. I hadn't even done the card-driven game system yet. This is X Encounter, tables and charts, and it's got 56 pages of rules plus a scenario booklet. I mean, this is a time machine back to a time that nobody would do that. I wouldn't even do this game now. But I did it, and it's got a big fan following. So I said, so if you are looking for a light, happy, uncomplicated war game, do not buy this game. Do not buy this game. And if you get a moment, every time somebody says to me, is it good solo? It's not a solo game. It's got no bot. No. Every time somebody says to me, is it going to do it? No. Don't buy it. I've been online now continuously telling people don't buy the game.
But you actually used the phrase. You said, read my lips. Don't buy the game.
Don't buy the game.
To be honest with you, this is my brother's copy, and he did solo play this. So it can't be done.
See, now here's the thing. Jason, I've played it 100 times literally.
I'm sure you have.
But when they say solo in today's world,
it means
it's like what I did Erasmus for Empire of the Sun. It's gonna be this detailed artificial intelligence, decision logic, and all this stuff, right? And those guys and the really heavy solo guys, if they have to make one decision other than rolling a die, they don't think it's a good solo system. So I wanted to be clear. You can do anything. You could turn the game into a barbecue pit. You could just light a fire in it. You could throw it away. You could burn it. You could play a game on it. But it is not a solo game. You can figure out anything you want to do, but it's not a solo game.
Now hold on here. On the back of the box, it has a rating.
Yep.
And there are 4 notches for solo suitability, and you've got 3 of them colored in.
Out of what?
Out of 4.
There you go.
It says.
You know why? Because I put 1985. It's 1985. I put one chart. There's only one decision you can't make on your own. We put a bidding chart in so you can bid against a system. That is the only solo compromise in the whole game. So yeah.
Are there going to be any major fundamental differences from the new version from the old, or is it strictly just a streamline?
No. First off, no streamlining. There is no streamlining. Right. It is if you knew how to play, if your brother or you knew how to play the original, you'll know how to play this. However, there was one system, there was 2 little subsystems I was not happy with back in 1986, a year after it came out. And I didn't like submarines weren't handled badly, but I didn't like the way I handled submarines. There was a better way to do submarines I thought of years later. And there was a couple, and of course, everybody calls them ahistorical. These guys are, they're smart guys who play our games, and they came up with cute tactics. Oh, look, I can do this. Isn't that ahistorical? And grow the fuck up. But so I've cataloged it's 35 years now. Over 35 years, I've cataloged all the cute tricks. I will take those out, right? I'll write the sentence a little tighter. They'll still try all sorts of crap. I don't know. Knock yourself out. But I'll take out the cute tricks. I've updated submarines. But the big change is going to be the scenarios. So, 35 years later, I read another 100 books on this topic, and I've got a lot more data. So what I've been doing over the last 2 days is my knowledge of the nationalist Chinese order of battle is, 10 times what I knew back in 85, because there's a lot more information's come out since then.
Right.
So I literally have been hand drawing the order of battle of the Chinese Nationalist Army. So, I'll put that in the game. Yeah. The Malaya scenario is better. I've gotten recent Japanese translations of their attack orders. I actually have all the operational orders for the attack into the south, and I've read it. I got it right over here. So all that stuff will show up in the game. So the research will be updated, but the game is as it was, with some minor, like I said, little house rules that I think made sense that the guys developed over the years. I'll put those in. That's already been done. I
know Dan said that when it comes out, he'll be playing it live by himself on one of his shows.
Now, I've got a question. Your rule book, Mark, is it like a programmed rule book, as modular, like is there a little shot of information you got and you can play a scenario and then?
Okay. Well, so here's the thing. Where Pacific War was very advanced in its day was the rule book, there were 4 levels of scenarios. There's engagement scenarios, which are solitaire. And by the way, that's why we said the solitaire rating was high. There's about 6, probably 10 scenarios that you play. They're meant to be solitaire, but there's like, it's the attack on Pearl Harbor is a solitaire scenario. There's a couple of small scenarios, but they're there to teach you the mechanics of the game. Then there were battle scenarios. So Coral Sea and Midway and all the famous battles, those are a scenario. And those only played a couple hours. They only used some more rules. Then there's the campaign scenarios, which are really also, that's where you're playing with basically all the rules. And then there's the whole war, which is there. I've done it 3 times. I hope nobody else ever does it again. But it'll be in the box with all sorts of rules for that stuff. So in the original rule booklet, that's why I think it was popular. It had a really good programmed learning thing there, Dan. But where it got annoying was after you knew how to play the game, finding a rule in the rule booklet became almost had to memorize the goddamn thing. So it was annoying as hell. So now we're doing it. Here's what we're doing this time. There will be 3 rule booklets. One rule booklet will be all the rules to play the engagement scenarios. That's it. Complete. Don't look at anything else. Now you want to go up to the battle scenarios. There'll be a battle scenario booklet. All the rules. You don't have to look at any other booklets. It's all complete. Play the battle scenarios. Then the campaign and strategic scenarios will be what I would call every single rule in the game tied to the sequence of play. Just like you would see a normal rule booklet. It's going to be, so I have to reverse the order. I've been reversing the order of all the rules because the way we did the last time was simple to hard. Now I'm going to have 3 separate rule booklets. So the last rule booklet, which is what I'm working on, is all the rules based on the sequence of play written out, so you can find them once you know how to play the game. But when you're learning it, you won't touch that booklet. You leave that over there because you got this other booklet for the engagement scenarios, which might be it'll probably be like 4 pages or 8 pages long maximum to play the initial solitaire, and you'll learn all those mechanics. And when you move to the next level, you don't have to remember. You can take that booklet and put it away. You got another booklet, just all the rules you need for the battle scenarios, including whatever you got from the engagement, will be in that one booklet, and you can play them with just that one booklet. And then if you go to the whole enchilada, you'll have a rule booklet that you get rid of those other 2, put them aside, and you got rules for everything. So it is programmed. It's very much that is being kept, but just presented differently.
So then why the intimidating complexity rating?
Have you ever played it?
No.
Well, then that was a foolish question.
No, what I'm trying to say is like the way you're explaining it, it's like it looks so like easy.
Yeah, but it's a lot. It's a simulation. I mean, it's like.
Did you set out to design it in such a complicated fashion, or did it just kind of evolve?
No, it was the game.
I'm not going to say it's not complicated, but
no. In 1985, I wanted to design the ultimate Pacific simulation, operational simulation.
There you go.
That's what I did. And the fact that 35 years later, people still remember it and want to play it, I think I probably got there.
Now,
in 2020, is the world ready for this time machine from 1985? Well, apparently, 1,200 guys said, yeah. So we're going to do it. Now, will they be, and I've said it many times, if you are looking for it to be streamlined, I'm not streamlining a thing. If you're looking, it's going to be the game, the best version of the game that came out in 85 is going to be the one we're coming out with now. That's it. And it's the game I want, and hopefully 3 other guys want that game. But 1,200 guys have ponied up the money for it, so they're going to get a copy. They all go, this is crap, and this is too complicated. But I warned them. All I can do is be truthful. This is not, I did that game Gettysburg. Remember that, Dan? That nice one for C3I.
Yes.
It's got like 19 pieces in it or something. That's over here. And Pacific War is over here and into the next room.
Gettysburg's game's got a lot of favorable reviews, actually.
Because Gettysburg is a war game for this time.
Yeah.
This is the game that people go, oh, I got kids, I got this going on, I set it up, boom, I play it, I'm done. Yeah. Again, and believe it or not, by the way, republishing a game from 1985 that's this involved is at least 3 times harder than designing a new game from scratch.
I was going to ask you, Mark, being a designer, I think designers, most of them are artists, and I consider you an artist. Now, why would you want to revisit and not go on? Why do you want to revisit your old games?
I don't.
Other people are asking him to.
I have had Peloponnesian War that got republished, actually nominated for War Game of the Year, which it won't win, but remember the game was done back in 1991, I think. The only reason Peloponnesian War got reprinted is Gene Billings would say, I want to reprint it. Okay. And it was nice in the sense I got to work with the great Chad Jensen right at the end of his life. Wonderful man. He and I got along really well, and I was looking forward to doing a lot more games with him. And so, that's not going to happen, but I got to do it once with him. He's a great guy. So Chad and I, revamped Peloponnesian War and got it out there. But that was never on my plans. And then there was this game, France 1944. One of the worst sellers Victory's ever had. It only sold like 12,000 copies or something like that.
That was one of their worst sellers?
That was our worst seller. One of the worst. Yeah, I think it was right at the bottom.
Wow.
Yeah. But on the other hand, Pacific War sold 29,000 copies.
I'm going to have to get it. I know I'll never play it because I just can't get it.
Dan, don't do it.
Are you kidding? You're selling it so beautiful.
Don't do it.
You have no idea how you're selling it.
I'm not selling it. I'm telling you, don't do it. Jason, tell him I just told him not to do it, will you?
No, but just you talking about it, it's so engrossing. Like, I got to give it a shot.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You'll be better off for it. Yeah.
Mark, was there any games that inspired Pacific War? I mean, prior to the existence of your game Pacific War, was there something that you went to on the subject and played and enjoyed? Or did you just throw your hands up and say, I don't like any of it, I'm designing my own?
I think it was the latter. Well, let's not be so.
Well, yeah, I don't mean to be harsh, but
yeah. It wasn't like I hadn't played good Pacific games,
right?
But I had in my head this idea. I always wanted to, I'm very fascinated by the Pacific and the Solomons. So the game was really a operational game about the warfare in the Solomons, and it grew from there. But it was always meant to be the whole war, and that was my strat. When I was at Victory Games, if people say, well, what was Victory Games' strategy? Well, look at the games we did.
Yeah,
I like doing games about the whole thing. So we did the Civil War, we did Vietnam, we did Pacific War.
I didn't know
the Korean War.
Bad game.
What?
I didn't know Victory Games put out a bad game.
Well, thank you. And we had amazing designs. I only put out 3 Victory Games.
What?
But the point is, Joel Bolkowski did the classic Korean War game. It's still, they're going to get republished. It's still the best Korean War game out there as far as I'm concerned. Eric Lee Smith did a classic Civil War, the Civil War, I think it's called. Yeah, the Civil War. I did Pacific War. Nick Karp did Vietnam. So my strategy was to do games about entire wars with scenarios about pieces of the war. That was the Victory Games. There you go. Fabulous game. So there you go. And fabulous game. And so that was the strategy. So when we did Pacific War, we were doing the Pacific War, the whole thing. But I wanted to do a detailed simulation, and I wanted to do all of it. And as I think I wrote in I started my blog up. I wrote in my blog, I said, when I did Pacific War, I was 31. I was a new father, and now I am, 65, and I'm a new grandfather. So it's just, I just moved on to the next phase to redo it.
How long did it take you from concept to box to design that? Just out of curiosity.
I'd say about 9 months.
That's it?
Seriously?
I need a drink.
I don't have a drink. I don't have one. Oh, Mark, that's incredible. I love talking to you, man.
Well, I'm not trying to, just telling you how.
Yeah.
Games, remember, this was a full-time, every day, you say 9 months, that seems like a short period of time. Only if you're doing it part-time. I had a full-time job. I ran the company, and I designed Pacific War. I had look at my playtesters. John Butterfield, Eric Lee Smith, and Nick Carr were my playtesters.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I had, Robert Ryer and Ted Kohler for the art and the rules, and Michael Moore. We had like an elite crew. So
had a machine there.
We had a good machine, and and I worked on it. That's what I did. And I used to have a long train ride. And I worked then, and I had set up my 2-year-old daughter, who's now a mother, who's 37. She sat on my lap and watched me play the game, and she was very good. She never touched it.
You got to do us a favor, Mark.
Huh?
You got to do us a favor, though. In the new edition, you have to put a designer's notes in it.
Oh yeah, do not worry about that. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, this one, I didn't have time for designer's notes. Although there are designer's notes sprinkled throughout it, by the way. But I didn't do that. Came a little. I got a little more into writing designer's notes like that later on. That was a Dunnigan thing. Dunnigan is really the first guy to do the designer's notes thing.
That's where it started.
Yeah.
And are you? I guess you're the developer of that game, right?
Which game?
I was gonna say the new game again.
If that's for me, I'm not here.
So, sorry, guys. Sorry.
Don't mind us.
I'm gonna get something to drink real quick.
Oh, he muted us. Ooh.
It was my psychologist.
Wow. Okay. I thought maybe it was your parole officer.
No. I'm out. I'm clean now.
Okay.
And what did I want to ask Mark? Blah 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 blah. Oh yeah. Is he developing the game? The Pacific War. Are you developing it? Are you the developer?
It's already developed.
Hey, is there anybody else in this room?
Okay. Now
No,
isn't that like
It's me.
for me to proof my own stuff? I find that difficult.
So the answer is, I've been my own developer for a very long time. I've been designing, developing. Now, where I do need some help sometimes, which is why I work with Chatham Peloponnesian War, I need a rules editor. That's where I've asked for help.
Okay.
And I have Marcus Stumpter is the developer of Record. So Marcus will go through the rules, make sure they say what they're supposed to say and all that stuff. And I got a bunch of guys have already volunteered to be proofreaders, so that won't be a problem. But as far as the pack, it's all me until we get to the I finish my games basically before I give them to anybody to even rules edit. So no, I do the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Now I would find that difficult because in my head it sounds correct. Whatever I'm reading,
I've also had a few more years of experience than you in this particular area.
I think so, Mark.
Have you thought, Mark, about putting a big Confederate flag on the new edition?
Yes, in fact, it's going to go right on top of the F4F is going to go right there. It's to be on the other side.
You'll sell more games.
The town that you walked into that had all Confederate flags, that's creepy, man. That's
no. It was a gallery. They only had art with Confederate flags. It wasn't like that flag.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just more consular. I mean, you should look him online. He has Robert E. Lee sitting next to Stonewall Jackson, or they're marching through town.
Right.
That kind of crap.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a historical painting or whatever you want to call it. But no, I only have Union stuff. I like to go with the winners.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Should I take a few questions from chat, because we did have chat, and I just wanted this to be like tea time. It's three guys talking, but let's see here. Jen Blixt, designer notes for the win. What's your best designer notes of all time?
Ooh, good one.
Are you asking me that question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I mean, there are some. I was once asked a question. They said, "What do you think your legacy is going to be?" I said, "That ain't up to me. Other people decide you do what you do, and then people decide your legacy." So, I enjoy writing designer's notes. So I think that they're all at the time they're saying what I thought I did. I like my designer's notes for Pericles. I like them for Empire of the Sun. I like them for the People. I mean, Peloponnesian War. Although those were ones I actually published, from originally. So, I put my all into my designer's notes. But ask the guy who asked the question, which one did you like the best? Ask him. Well, listening, I assume.
Hold on, Jason.
Sure.
You're a designer notes type of guy. You got you do designer notes once in a while on your YouTube channel. What's your favorite, man?
I don't know that I have a favorite, and that might be a cop out, but maybe a favorite era. And for some reason, I like the old school '80s Avalon Hill designers notes included in the game.
There you go. Those
I don't know why. Just nostalgia, probably.
And these are the questions that I like to ask Mark, because at least I look smart and I don't look stupid asking wargaming questions. Do you have any hobbies outside of reading and gaming, Mark?
It's a. I mean, besides like exercising kind of stuff, I like sports. I mean, actually, physically, I mean, I like to play golf. I play tennis.
What's your handicap?
Oh, well, right now, I usually shoot like 95, 93. That's what I usually shoot. So what is that handicap? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know.
To get a handicap, it's like the course has a slope rating. It's all formulaic. But if you play with me, I'm going to shoot. I'll break 100, but not much more than that.
If I play with you, I guarantee you'll win.
So that's what the handicap's for. You get extra strokes. I mean, I don't know. But I play tennis. I played tennis in high school, so I still play tennis. I like tennis. Actually, I like tennis better than golf because it's like an hour. You know, when you play golf, it's like the whole day. It's a whole day. You know, when you play tennis, it's like an hour. So you run around, you get sweaty, and you're done. Get a drink, you know, get some juice or something. But as far as other hobbies go, like, you know, mental hobby, I like to play chess, but that's like a game, right? So that's not really a difference.
I'm going to show you something now.
The greatest game of all time.
Did you see this, Mark?
No.
You don't look very excited.
The number of tank variants, you know, chess variants out there. So no, I play chess, you know.
Okay, sorry.
Another thing, one of the things, I'm actually on the board of directors of the Marshall Chess Club. So I keep I'm in charge of the building, and right now I've been, you know, dealing with loans and keeping staff hired. You know, we haven't laid anybody off. You know, but you know it's gonna get rough by Labor Day. We're gonna have some money problems, but you know, who the hell knows.
And you're also associated with the Gettysburg.
No longer. I was on the board of the Gettysburg Trust for about 3 years. Back in when was I doing that? I guess it was around the turn of the century when they opened up the new museum. Whenever the new museum opened up, I was there when we opened up the museum. So I was part of that board of directors.
And didn't you give tours?
I have given tours, but not to my company. A lot of people in my company like to take these kind of like leadership staff tours at various places. So once it became known that I knew a lot, they say, "Hey, would you take us around?" Well, of course, I'm not charging them. So I am an unpaid tour. I give an unpaid tours of Gettysburg. No one's ever paid me a penny for it. Well, but I did have, by the way, the best tour I ever had at Gettysburg. You know who Jim McPherson is? James McPherson is?
The name says something.
Yeah, well, Battle Cry of Freedom. He's a major historian for the Civil War. And Jim McPherson was on the board. He was like the he was the historian on the board when I was on the board, so I got to know him. He's very nice, very quiet guy, but very nice guy. And he's a big bicycle enthusiast. So one board of directors meeting, it was like you could sign up for these little events, and one of the events was a bicycle tour with Jim McPherson of the first day of Gettysburg. Well, I signed up for that thing in a heartbeat. Riding around on bicycles, and then Jim McPherson, like right where Reynolds was killed, he's sitting there, and he just goes on for an hour, and I'm just like enthralled. I mean, it was amazing. So it was some good time. So I've gotten some. That was the best staff tour I ever got. Was Jim McPherson on the first day at Gettysburg.
Now, Mark, I have an idea. Whenever and if ever WBC runs again,
yes,
I'm hoping next year. Gettysburg is like 2.5 hours away from there.
It is. Yes, it's actually. Yeah, that sounds about right. I used to go drive through Gettysburg on my way when it used to be at Lancaster. I don't know how far. 2.5 hours sounds about right. Let's just say that's about right. I don't know, but yeah, it's not that far away. That's
now,
right.
I'd love to set up, with your permission, I would love to set up a day out with Mark Herman guiding us through Gettysburg, man. Is that interesting to you?
Honestly,
you just gave me your answer. It's okay.
There's your answer.
These days, when I lived in Washington, I would have said yes in a heartbeat. But for me, it's like it takes me like 5.5 hours to drive to WBC.
Okay.
To go back down to Gettysburg is another 2.5 hours, and to get back to New York.
Yeah.
After the end of a week of WBC, all I want to do is go home. So
okay.
It's not however, it is easy to get a good tour of Gettysburg. I mean, they have amazing tours here. There's a whole tours group, so, and they have, by the way, there's a book. I'll find the reference for you, Dan. There's a really great book called Car Tours of Gettysburg. And yeah, and it, you follow the map and, it tells you what's going on. So it's a well documented and well established, and the museum by itself is amazing. The museum is crazy.
Yeah, because I my first time at WBC obviously was last year, and
Sure.
when I found out that Gettysburg was 2.5 hours away, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, man, I gotta go, and I didn't go.
Mark, is WBC, is that your go-to convention? Is that your favorite convention, or are there others that you frequent?
Well, it's the one I've gone to the most. I used to be in because I was in the business for many years. I was always at Origins.
Yeah.
And I've been to Gen Con long ago. I didn't go to Gen Con until we had the James Bond role-playing game with Victories. That's the only time I've ever really gone to Gen Con, was those couple of years
Well,
we were doing role-playing.
I'm sure Origins and Gen Con are not anything like they used to be.
They're not. They got too big for my taste.
Right.
And they also went Wargaming became like a sideshow. So the WBC, and even at WBC, the wargaming is slowly getting, as guys my age, get less interested or don't travel as much or whatever. So WBC, but that's like my go-to convention. But also, I'm a very, very fond of the Consim World. Is a real wargaming convention, very small. The one in Tempe, and John Kranz does an amazing job with it. And now he's got a Dallas one.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be the guest of honor at their first year, but then I saw this pandemic. I used to do pandemic gaming for professionally for the U.S. government, and so I saw this thing coming. I didn't go to Spain because of it. I didn't go to the Dallas thing because I said this thing's already. I knew that the thing was here. I just couldn't prove it, but I knew it was here, and now being proven correct. In fact, it is possible I've already had it. I'm not sure because I was in California. My wife and I came back from California on January 4th, and they're already the timeline's going back that it was in California by December, I think. A lot of on the statistical death rate versus this January's death rate is off, and so I think people were passing away from it. They just didn't know why. They thought they had the flu or some weird virus. They just didn't know what it was, and they're gonna over time they doing autopsies. They'll keep pushing that time. So when I got back on January 4th, my wife and I she was really sick for about 3 weeks. I was sick for about 10 days. Now it could have been anything, right? There's a lot of the diseases out there, but maybe. So, but until I get an antibody test, I won't know. But I'm treating it like I didn't. But
so, if you game the pandemic, how many turns did it last, so we know when it will end?
Yeah. So pandemics are the thing that I understand the things that Governor Cuomo has been focusing on. When we ran the models, the day you run out of your last ventilator, everybody dies. Anybody who needs a ventilator after that dies. So your death rate kind of goes up like this, and then it goes like that.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a true story. So our good friend is she's a doctor at one of the major. I don't want to give away her name or what because she'll get in trouble maybe, but she works in one of the big hospitals right around the corner from me. Right around the corner is NYU, Langone, Bellevue, and Mount Sinai. Those are three of the major hospitals in New York. And she told me that one night they got down to having 2 ventilators, and they were starting to have the conversation like, well, what do we do with the third guy or woman? And luckily, 100 ventilators showed up the next morning from Cuomo.
Yeah, that's
how close it got. We were right on the edge of seriously bad things. I mean, worse than it's already been. It's been horrible, off the scale horrible. I mean, 16,000 New Yorkers dead, literally around the corner from me. So I haven't left this apartment in 2 months. But so I'm safe. This place is, quarantine center. We've interacted with nobody.
Have the numbers dropped, man? Or did
you? Yeah, you just watch. Yeah, so remember, numbers dropping. I want to put this in perspective. Like 300 people died yesterday. That is a lot less than 900 people.
Yeah, I remember
100 people is a horror show. 900 people is just more horror show. So, yes, the numbers have dropped, but it's still
Dan,
really high.
I would add, Dan, I don't know if you know this, but here in America, the number of deaths via coronavirus has exceeded all the American deaths through all the years in Vietnam now.
Yeah, we're up to 62. We're losing about 2,000 people a day right now. That's about what we're across the country. And even though we only lost 300 here, I grieve for the other 1,700 Americans. It's just horrible. And the thing that's really upsetting me is anybody who thinks the virus cares if you're, a Democrat, Republican, you're white, you're brown, you're black, it don't male, boy, girl. Seems like to kill boys more than girls, but none of that is even relevant. And I hear it, and I'm just like, I want to vomit. That's all I say. It's like, really? You think I care less about a guy who lives in the middle of America who liked Trump? No. Do I care about him any less than I do with some little girl in California whose parents are Democrats? No. Don't care.
I like the people that think if they go to the gym every day, they're not going to get it. I love those guys.
Well, I'll tell you honestly, the thing that I told my wife this exactly, and you can look at these videos. Let's say you're wearing a face mask, right? Cool. You cough. So if you look at the stuff goes straight up and straight down. So it's not you're not projectile vomiting it at somebody on the street, right? However, and if you're outside, air, osmosis, it's going to distribute itself. Fine. But in a store, like a grocery store or a hospital or any confined space, it goes up, but it sits in the air for about an hour. Okay. So somebody could have coughed. You can show up 30 minutes later and you can walk right through that stuff. So that's where, and I was paying attention, tell you another story. You like stories, right, Dan?
Of course.
So you've all heard of anthrax, right? You've heard of anthrax.
It was a band, wasn't it?
Yes, it was a band. It was a band, but I'm not talking about the band. I'm talking about what they were named for.
Right.
So anthrax is a naturally occurring, it's not a virus. I think it's a bacteria. Comes from livestock. It's a livestock related. I'm pretty sure that's true. But regardless, in the 1970s, early 80s, the Soviets weaponized anthrax by making it if they spread it, it would stay in the air, aerosoled it. So we know a lot about aerosols.
Yeah.
And it kind of floats around, and obviously the idea was to shoot a shell, and the stuff would pop in the air, and then soldiers would walk through. They all get sick with anthrax and either die or get very sick, and that would be the whole plan. The problem with aerosols is they do lousy in moist environments. So in other words, if it's raining, aerosol just comes right out of the air.
Oh, we're good here then.
Yeah, exactly my point. Mist due in the morning. So if you're going to use an anthrax bioweapon in Germany, most of the year, it's a pretty wet place. They got rain, they got, and so it just doesn't work that well because it immediately gets wet and it falls to the ground. It doesn't work that way, right? So they kind of didn't really push it. But I do understand the whole aerosol thing. So every time it rains here, I'm going, great, not in the air. However, stores, got to watch out. So I've been staying out of stores. Good luck opening the economy. So going back to your gym thing, doesn't matter. Yeah, you could be 12 feet away from me, but as long as you're breathing, as long as you're breathing, which you're going to have to do, if you've got it, you're going to be putting it into the air. Probability exists I might get it at some point just by being in the same room long enough.
Well, Mark, I'm going to cut this.
I know it's pretty sad stuff, right? It's not what you wanted to talk about.
No.
I'm sorry. You brought it up. I didn't bring it up.
Now he's killing the show. You brought him down.
Bum me out, man. Ask me some uplifting. Well, let's finish on a good note. Give me one more question. Somebody can talk about that'll get us in a better place.
Okay, because we don't have any good questions, and uplifting that is. You know what, Jason? You got the floor. Come on, man.
Oh, man. An uplifting question.
Bring us up, Jason. Jason, bring us up, buddy.
Wow. They put me on the spot.
Come on.
What are you? I don't know. Something generic is all I got. What are you most proud of in all your years, Mark? And you can't say Pacific War. I know it's a great game, but in all your years, and it doesn't even have to be game related. What is Mark Herman most proud of?
I'll tell you, I was actually an executive in a fairly big consulting company, and I was like, rose to the top of the firm. At one time I had a lot of people working for me, responsible for a lot of stuff. And I didn't step on anybody to get there. I did not hurt anybody. I didn't have to take out a competitor or a rival. I just did my thing. Didn't care what anybody else did. And, sometimes it just works out that way. So I feel good that I didn't have to climb over anybody's body to get to where I wanted to go. So I'm most proud of that.
But you don't look like the type of person that if it did present itself, you wouldn't take that opportunity.
You know, I learned a long time ago. There was one time this person who just had in this company early in my career. She had a major. She saw me as an obstacle to whatever she wanted to achieve. Whatever.
That company wasn't Enron, was it? By the way.
No, you got to talk to Harold Buchanan for that. But that wasn't a dig on Harold. It's true. He worked for Enron.
Wow. It's out of the bag now.
No, he got out clean, but he was a good guy. But and this woman just had it all out for me. She just felt like I was in her way. I had nothing to do with her, but she was always coming at me. And if at first your natural inclination is to tussle, like get out of my face, leave me alone, And I said something to my boss. He says, all I can see is two people arguing with each other. That's what he said. I said, that's very reasonable. So what I started doing is I did nothing. I let her yell, and I just ignored her. And after a while, people said, you know what? You're always yelling. He don't care. You're the problem. So I won by not fighting. So I learned a very big lesson in my life that way, is that sometimes the best way to fight is not to.
Yeah.
Very Taoist of you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. You're the comparative religion guy. Yeah. I was a big I Ching guy. I throw the Ching whenever on a regular basis.
The I Ching, the burning. Bad
yeah,
joke.
I don't have yarrow sticks. I want to be clear. I use coins, but I don't have any yarrow sticks. I can't do the yarrow sticks, but I do. I do the coins. I get my 2 trigrams, and I have found it to be perseverance furthers, right?
How about that?
Well, I have to cut it.
And that's better. I feel like we're in a better place now.
Well, Mark, thank you very much. Jason, thank you very much.
Jason, I hope to meet you in person someday.
Oh, bless you, sir. Thank you for tolerating me.
You're a joy. You're a joy.
And
Dan, you're a joy too. I want to be clear.
thanks for being on, guys.
Thank
Later.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.